I created this video to help others that were possibly making a Streetfighter like I did. My bike started as a 2007 FJR1300 touring motorcycle. The build happened the spring of 2021. The motorcycle was a gift from a friend who was almost killed a few years ago on this bike. One of his past motorcycles was the 2004 FJR that had been laid down a few times, and all the body panels had been removed at that time. So we called this bike Frankenstein. In loving memory of that motorcycle, this bike was Frankie. My Streetfighter is a lower budget build, having less than $2,000 in it, not including the DynoJet modules. Some parts had to be replaced. The front tire was bent all the way back to the header. The engine stator case was, well, we'll just say almost not there, heavily damaged. Frankie was originally going to be a black with some red body panels. The more I looked at the all-black bikes on the internet, the more I liked them. When the bike came apart to go to the painter, I purchased only black paint. The most difficult part of the build was what to do with all the parts that were located under the fairing. I had to relocate the main wiring harness, radiator overflow tank, battery, 2 ignition coils, starter solenoid, 2 fuse panels, and a dozen relays and switches. The battery was replaced with a lithium battery, and it and the starter relay were moved under the seat. All the rest of the parts went under the gas tank. I used my metalworking skills and a ball-peen hammer to make some extra room. Who needs a 6.6 gallon tank on a Streetfighter anyway? The rest was getting everything organized to make it all fit. It's like organizing your garage. If everything is in its correct place, you end up with room for everything. My touring motorcycle is a 2004 FJR. Frankie is my sport bike that I enjoy doing wheelies on. I took the time to swap the rear swing arms because the 2004 swing arm is an inch shorter than the 2007. This allows me more easily to roll up the front end to ride wheelies. I originally was not planning to run a windshield, but after mounting my stock gauge cluster, it looked big and out of place. I looked at adding an aftermarket gauge cluster, but I would lose some of the functionality and I'd have a whole lot of extra work to do to make that work. So I kept the original gauge cluster and decided to add a windshield. The little shield lowers my wind blast at highway speeds, and I'm glad I added it now. The 2007 FJR is listed as a wet weight of 644 pounds. I was hoping to get this bike under 500, but I found out it's just a heavy bike. I ended up at 525 with 1.5 gallons of gas in the tank. Any attempts to get rid of more weight would be a whole lot of work and very little gain. 2 complaints that I've had on the bike so far is the rear foot pegs and the chrome bolts on the frame. By leaving the rear foot pegs, I can lift the front wheel in second gear when standing on them. And the aluminum frame is cast and thin. If you were to cut off the raised areas, you would open up a hole in the frame. I thought it would look funny with a bunch of random holes in the frame. If you have any questions about my build and like to add some comments, that would be great. I'll be checking in occasionally and responding to your comments. Have a great one. Thanks for listening.